litigated at the highest level of the federal courts. And every single federal court in the country, and I regularly appear in the Supreme Court. I'm here as a father of two middle schoolers, as a father of two kids in college, as a gun owner, as a hunter, and I'm here because I'm appalled that the state of Maryland is about to do leave. Because what we have here is an attempt by the state not merely to control for all purposes, but to suppress the rights of individual citizens to exercise a fundamental constitutional right. And that suppression is the means by which the gun control objectives that this legislation seeks to attain is accomplished. And that's expressed in the testimony of Dr. Webster in the book that Johns Hopkins has published with him. And I'd like to draw your attention to this because this matters as a legal matter. On page 118 of the Johns Hopkins book, you will find this passage that the purpose of this, to achieve the gun control, may suppress gun ownership and thus reduce opportunities of criminals to find individuals who have guns. A legislative objective to suppress gun ownership is constitutionally impermissible. The legislature may not, the state may not, seek to suppress, license, or burden the exercise of a fundamental constitutional right simply to address those who break the laws. You cannot license and tax the exercise of the constitutional right. That has been true for decades since the Supreme Court decided the Murdoch case. I have submitted to the committee, and I apologize for the length, a 19-page, single-space legal brief, in which all this is laid out. And I ask you to read it if you can. I know it's full of legal jargon, but it lays out the case. This suppression of the right you see most acutely here in the licensing provisions. And what it does is burden the right of everybody, the law-abiding citizen, to purchase a gun by imposing multiple hoops of expense and delay. The expense is substantial. You heard John here say it's roughly $400 or more. There's no case that I have found that sustains a license fee of that amount as a condition to an exercise of fundamental constitutional right. The Supreme Court held in Murdoch that the fee can only be nominal. And it matters not a bit that the state is only paying $25 or $100 in their own pockets. The fees that the individual has to pay are much more, and that is because the state mandated requirement. You don't look at what you're going to put in your pocket, you're going to look what the individual has to pay. But more importantly than just the cost, you have, by virtue of the training requirements, imposed an enormous burden. And it's unprecedented. Even in the states like New Jersey or California or elsewhere that require a higher licensing of gun purchasers, nobody requires live fire. And there's a reason for that. Not even the District of Columbia, by the way, required live fire, and that's one of the most restrictive jurisdictions in the country. They can't require it because it can't be met as a practical matter. It stands as a complete obstacle. You've heard John testify, we don't have the training. We don't have the ranges. I have tons of training. This bill probably won't affect me in this slides. But for those who seek to buy a handgun for the first time for self-protection in the home, well, they're out of luck because there's no way they're going to get training anytime in a timely manner. So we heard testimony this morning that the person who defended his home with a handgun and killed an intruder was perfectly within his rights. But that same person, if he doesn't already have a handgun and wishes to acquire, is out of luck because he's no way he's going to be able to satisfy all these with a timely manner to accomplish this. In my brief, you'll see a discussion there that when the state seeks to regulate, they must at least leave an alternative avenue. But what the state has proposals to do here is an absolute ban on the right to purchase. And there's no doubt about it or any dispute that there's a constitutional right to purchase. Heller established that, we down enforced it, and made it applicable to the state. You cannot regard the Second Amendment as the black sheep of the sun, as somehow a constitutional amendment doesn't really count. Supreme Court rejected that decisively in McDonald. So what this legislation is going to be enacted, it seems to me that you want to enact legislation that will survive judicial review in the federal courts, where you're not going to be able to work on the basis of supposition or anecdote. You're going to have real data. And in my brief, I list the cases beyond dispute under either intermediate or strict scrutiny. You're going to have real data. You don't have it. It's going to fail. Why are you enacting or seeking to enact legislation that will be immediately challenged, and I assure you it will be, and will be litigated to the nth degree in the federal courts, and ultimately fail? That's not responsible lawmaking. Now, I understand that a lot of people don't like firearms. I like firearms, and I've used them all my life. My children use firearms. I teach them how to do it. I keep those firearms safe. And everybody abhors gun violence. There's nobody here that hates what happens in Newtown more than I do. You still have to deal with the facts. You still can't suppress a constitutional right, except because we're all for it. Thank you.